Welcome back to the Retire As You Desire show. Today's episode is going to be all about Social Security. Now, this is the most important part of any retirement income plan, whether you have Social Security or if you don't, because some people are excluded from it. But in today's episode, we're going to get into why this matters so much and why the plan is really the most important thing that you're going to do from a retirement income standpoint throughout your retirement years. So in today's show, let's really get into why we're going to go into a deep dive. Like, why is this so important? I've ran into this so many times throughout my career where people want to take Social Security early. They think the system's going to go broke. We're going to go into all these details today. So stay with us for the whole entire show. But for many people, this is the most important source of retirement income, and they are really dependent on their Social Security income. But I'm also going to break down for you some of the simplest ways that I know how to get your Social Security education up to par today. I'm going to really give you a deep dive as to how it's calculated. Most people have no clue how your Social Security income is actually calculated. But I actually had to do formulas for this when I got my retirement income certified professional designation. Doing the math for this has really stuck with me over the years. So it's fun to actually show people how this works. So today's episode is going to give you all of these details. And this is a really important part. If you're going to retire soon, most people graduate, and I want to get into this first. Most people graduate from a planning perspective. There's a ton of incredible financial advisors out there, so many of them who are fiduciaries. They do the right thing for their clients. I know a lot of them, but I want to make sure people know that a retirement income certified professional, this is someone who specializes in income planning in retirement, and this is what I've studied to become. You may want to graduate at some point in your planning stages to someone who is an RICP. The reason for this is, it's so crucial to have great people in your corner that specialize in retirement income planning. And Social Security is really the foundation for this. So we're going to go into this today. Now, throughout your retirement years, your income is going to be based on so many different factors. Inflation, how the markets are doing. But can you really depend on Social Security being there for the next 30, 40, maybe even 50 years of your life if you live a long and healthy life? We have to understand making smart decisions now is going to impact your Social Security benefits in the future, and we want to do things in the best way possible. So in the first segment, I want to focus in on how is your Social Security calculated. Most people have no clue how to do this unless you study for this. But in the United States, your Social Security income is based on a couple things. Number one is your lifetime earnings. At the age of which you start receiving benefits and other various factors. I'm going to work through a step-by-step explanation today on how your Social Security benefits work. Now, number one, this is the fun part. We have to calculate your average indexed monthly earnings. This is an AIME, basically. Your Social Security looks at your highest earning 35 years of work. Now, these earnings are indexed. They are indexed because they want to account for changes in the average wages over your time. So over time, if you've made more money, these things will get averaged in. And Social Security takes into consideration the sum of these indexed earnings for the top 35 working years of your career. So they're going to take 35 years, multiply that by 12 months, and that's going to give you 420 months. This is your primary working years. Now, step two, the Social Security Administration is going to apply the primary insurance amount. This is called PIA. So we have AIME and PIA. The PIA is a formula that is used to convert the AIME into a monthly benefit. Are you confused yet? This is where most people get lost, and I want you to stick with me for the whole entire show, and I'm going to help work through all these different ideas with you the whole entire show. So let's take a break here. The PIA, the primary insurance amount formula for 2024, there's going to be 3 bend points. The dollar amounts for these bend points change each year with your average wage levels. I know, this is super confusing. But for 2024, the PIA formula might look something like this. I'm going to be using the 2023 values as an example. It might actually be higher in 2024 due to inflation, which has been prevalent in the past 4 years. But 90% of the first $1,115 of AIME, and then you want to add 32% of AIME over $1,115 through $6,721. And then lastly, we want to add 15% of AIME over roughly $6,700. This is an adjustment for the age of your benefits. It's going to be changing depending on when you start to receive your retirement income from Social Security. Now, the full retirement age in 2024 is typically between 66 and 67 years, depending on your birth year. Your income is going to be dependent on your birth year. If you start your benefits before your full retirement age, they're reduced. So that means less income. But they're reduced by a certain percentage for each month before you start your full retirement age. So if you take your income at 65 versus 67, it's going to be reduced by those 24 months. It's a big deal. If you start your benefits after your full retirement age, they are increased by a certain percentage each month after your full retirement age. Now, I want to say something that's very important here. When you turn 70, and if you have not started your retirement income yet, you're going to have to start it at 70. That's when things begin if you've delayed everything. And then here's another fun fact about Social Security. If your full retirement age is 67, and if you wait till 70, you're going to receive an 8% increase every single year that you delay for your Social Security benefits. So that is a 24% increase on your income. And that is most likely only going to go up when you turn 70 because of the cost of living adjustments. And this is the next part that I want to really dive into, because this is an important part to help keep pace with inflation in retirement. If you're on a fixed income, your Social Security benefits are going to be adjusted annually. So this is going to help you keep pace with inflation on a different level. So there's changes in the cost of living, and the Social Security Administration, they measure this by the CPI-W, which is called the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers. Did you get that? You taking notes? That's a long one, but we call it CPI-W. So if you're doing your homework and researching this, that's what you want to look up. So let's go through an example of how your Social Security income could be elevated in retirement. And I'm going to illustrate this process for you as well. Let's calculate your AIME, A-I-M-E. So let's say your top 35 earning years after all of your indexing is $1,575,000. So that's your total earnings over the 35 years. Now your AIME would be that $1,575,000. You want to divide that by 420 months, and that's going to give you $3,750. It's pretty simple math. Now, we need to apply the PIA formula. And based on the 2023 numbers, 90% of the first $1,115 is $1,003.50. 32% of the amount between $1,115 and $3,750 is going to give you $843.20. So your total PIA is $1,846.70. Now we need to adjust for your age. Your full retirement age, let's say it's 67, but you choose to start your benefits at 62, your benefits might be reduced by about roughly 30%. It's a big deal. So in that scenario, your reduced PIA is going to be a little bit under $1,300 a month. That's a massive difference every single month, every single year for the rest of your life. And then you want to take into consideration the cost of living adjustments. This is where each benefit is going to be affected each year for the rest of your life. Stay tuned. After this break, I'm going to go into the cost of living adjustments and why it's so important to potentially delay your Social Security to get you higher income, but also understand how these cost of living adjustments are going to affect your retirement income for the rest of your life. Stay tuned to the Retire As You Desire show. And your Social Security income opportunities here are super important because inflation could erode your dollars if they're not invested and if they're just sitting in a bank account not making money. So here's a detailed look. Welcome back to the Retire As You Desire show, and today's episode is all about Social Security income. And in the last segment, we were really going into a deep dive as to how Social Security is calculated. And we talked about how if you start your Social Security income at the ripe age of 62, you could have a 30% decrease in your lifetime income. It's a big deal. But I want to go through this example one more time so that we could really hit the highlights here, because there's a couple different ways to really plan for your Social Security income. And this really starts with the AIME calculation. This is where we're looking at the top 35 earning years times 12 months is going to give you 420 months. But here's where it gets complicated. And then your PIA is going to have 3 different bend points. And this is where it gets calculated because there's different percentages. And then in the third stage, we need to adjust for your age, depending on if you take your Social Security at your full retirement age, which is primarily 66 or 67 these days. But if you do it at 62, your benefits are reduced. So overall, we want to understand what's the benefit of taking things early versus later. This is the most crucial decision in your retirement income plans. And then it goes into the next phase, which is your cost of living adjustments. In our industry, we call this COLA adjustments, and the news and the media, they say the same thing. COLA means cost of living adjustments. Now, most people have no idea how this is actually benchmarked or assessed. I'm going to give you a simplified example as to how Social Security actually changes this every year and how these items are calculated, so you're educated as to how things work. The whole point of this show. So the actual process of calculating your COLA adjustments is going to be really involving detailed rules and considerations, including specific adjustments for early versus late retirement income planners, family benefits, and unfortunately, if we have disability benefits, this is something we need to consider too. So for an accurate calculation tailored to your specific situation, it's really recommended to use the SSA.gov, the Social Security Administration's website. They have some great online calculators, and to be honest with you, I've had some great interactions with their offices, And I had to do this with my father, actually. We had to help him with his Social Security because when my mom passed away, it was just a whole nother process. And I experienced this firsthand, not only with my clients, but with my family, on how helpful they are. They really were great to work with, and they helped us figure out what's the best way for him to plan moving forward. And here's some different scenarios. So there are resources out there. Also, your financial advisor could be a great resource for you as well. Now, COLA adjustments. How is it calculated for Social Security? The cost of living adjustments for your benefits are going to be calculated to show that there is a better purchasing power if we are seeing inflation in our economy. And your Social Security income opportunities here are super important because inflation could erode your dollars if they're not invested and if they're just sitting in a bank account not making money. So here's a detailed look on how COLA is determined. In the third quarter of every year, the Social Security Administration are going to determine the base period. Now, this is all based on a time factor. The Consumer Price Index for urban wage, remember this CPI-W that we talked about earlier, is going to be a big part of this calculation. So the CPI with the SSA, they're comparing average CPI for the third quarter, which is July, August, and September of the current year, to the average CPI-W for the third quarter of the last year, in which a COLA was determined. This is like the basis for how they adjust for inflation. So they're going to calculate the percentage increase as well. And this is what's reported every year, usually third quarter, fourth quarter, for new income benefits for the following year. Now, let's say there's an increase in the Consumer Price Index from the previous third quarter average. The percentage increase is now going to be calculated. So if for the third quarter of the base year was 250 as an average, and let's say the third quarter of the current year is 260, the increase is going to be calculated as follows. It's all a percentage. So we're going to be figuring out the percentage of that increase. And this is how you're going to get an increase for your retirement income. So if we do the math, this is roughly a 4% increase. So over time, this is going to get applied to your COLA, your cost of living adjustments. So this percentage increase is then applied to current Social Security benefit amounts for those who are receiving Social Security. Now, there have been years when you get a big zero and people say, well, the cost of gas is still up, eggs are still up, bread is still up, my daily cost of living has gone up. But over this year period, from third quarter to third quarter, from the base to the current year, if the Social Security Administration is not showing inflation, you may not have an increase in income. And I want to make a very valid point here. This is why we want to have increasing income opportunities from your investments. This is why it's so crucial to not just be on a fixed income. Luckily, we have opportunities for your Social Security to rise, but that's why we want to still stay invested in the market. So when the markets are up, we can help offset these increased costs, especially property taxes. That's the biggest one I see. This way, we could potentially have still more fun in retirement with more paychecks. But getting back to your COLA, the average CPI for the third quarter versus the base is what you want to be paying attention to. We want to take a look at the inflation numbers. And if we see interest rates where they're at and inflation where it's at, there's probably a pretty good potential to have an increase in retirement income for your Social Security benefits. But if there's not, this is where you want to have your investments still working for you to to really help offset these no cost of living increases from a COLA perspective. And another thing when we're looking at your cost of living adjustments, it really makes a big difference if you wait. If you start your Social Security benefits at 62, imagine how much money you're missing out on as to waiting till you're 67 versus 70. It's a big difference in your monthly benefit. And I want to make another really strong point here. This is very important. You're not going to see your cost of living adjustment until things are determined annually, but this is usually announced in October, but they don't go into effect until the following year in January. So that's normally when our clients see larger retirement income dollar amounts from the Social Security, because that's when the cost of living adjustments kick in. So we have a couple months there where we've been kind of struggling potentially from an income perspective because all the costs have gone up, but you're not going to get that extra increase until next year. Really important thing to plan for. And then I want to talk about deflation, because in all the news these days, it's all about inflation. But there have been parts and times in the United States where we have deflation, where the costs are going down. I don't foresee this happening anytime soon, but this could happen. And this is where the Social Security Administration provides official COLA announcements. And they say, you know what, we're not going to be having increases because of deflation. Things have actually gone the opposite way. So when that happens, we want to have your investment dollars working for you. And then the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they publish the CPIW data monthly. So if you're worried about this, you can look into this information every single month and kind of estimate your future cost of living adjustments. Now also, working with a financial advisor like myself or potentially yours, there's some incredible online calculators that can help you sort of plan for this and set a benchmark for your Social Security income. Most people like to use a 2 or 3% increase because inflation has historically been at those dollar amounts. So from a planning perspective, we want to plan for these areas in the future. Now, in today's show, we've hit really an important part, how things are calculated in the first section. Most people don't understand it, and most people never want to do that work. And that's okay. That's why you have financial advisors. And the SSA.gov website has great calculators as well. If you need help with this, reach out to us. I'd love to help you through this process because it really is the most important part of your retirement income plan. But I saved the best for the next part. You're definitely going to want to stick around because most people think the Social Security Administration is broke. I'm going to kind of debunk some of this information and give you real live data as to how this could play out in the future for your retirement income years. Stay tuned to the Retire As You Desire show. The average life expectancy was in your 60s in the 1930s, but when the Social Security Administration was founded, people didn't realize that our life expectancy was going to really drastically change. Welcome back to the Retire As You Desire show. There is so much misinformation about the Social Security Administration, and I want to set things straight today, so stick with us for this segment. Now, let's face it, the Social Security Administration, they've had their challenges. When this was implemented in the 30s, this was used to help people because we were going through a depression, then World War II. These systems were set up to help people throughout retirement age. Now, the average life expectancy was in your 60s in the 1930s. So things have obviously changed. We're in the 70s and 80s now, depending on if you're married or single. But when the Social Security Administration was founded, people didn't realize that our life expectancy was going to really drastically change. Now, as our population is aging and people are living longer, people have been paying into the scenario and into the Social Security Administration for a long time. So you would think that there's plenty of funding there. But I'm going to give you an overview of the situation regarding the Social Security Administration in today's dollars and their own funding status. Because over the years, unfortunately, government has sort of robbed Peter to pay Paul, however that scenario goes. There's been borrowing in the Social Security Administration, and that's been sort of the issue, is when you're borrowing money and you don't pay it back. Naturally that doesn't go well. That usually leads to a bankruptcy if you're an individual or a family. In this case, the government has different ways to fund these programs, especially Medicare, Medicaid, and the Social Security Administration. But let's get into some projections in 2024 dollars. The Social Security Trust Funds. These are benefits that are primarily funded through two trust funds, the Old Age and Survivors Insurance, OASI, and the Disability Insurance, DI Trust Fund. These funds, they collect payroll taxes from workers and employers, and it's about 15% in today's dollar. So if you are an employee, you're paying 7.5%, and your employer is paying the other 7.5%. And these revenues are used to pay benefits for people. This is where people receive their Social Security income. And you would think, well, in America, we have 330 million people who are living here, roughly. You would think that there's enough people working to help pay for these costs. But the current status is a little bit of a different story. Now, according to a 2023 annual report from the Social Security Administration, their board of trustees said that combined, the OASI and the DI trust funds, they are projected to be depleted by 2034. And you're thinking, wow, that's 10 years from now if you're watching in today's year. And this is true if no changes are made to the current system. Now, this number is drastically going to change because it's based on longevity, people living longer. If people do not live as long, there's going to be more funds available. It's all a math game. That's what this whole scenario is all about. It's a math game. And it's really going to come down to taxes. And I'm going to talk at the end of the segment about ways to help plan for hopefully better Social Security opportunities for you. And it's a great idea to stay tuned. But after 2034, you have to ask yourself, if you're going to be receiving your benefits, what is Social Security going to do to still make sure that my benefits are there? But they think that the Social Security Administration could pay for about 80% of these benefits alone, just on a tax revenue standpoint. So you're thinking 80%, it's roughly projected. Is that going to reduce my benefit by 80%? The answer is no. But from a funding shortfall, the trustees project a 75-year actuarial deficit of 3.42%. Now, this is all about payroll. This means that to fully fund Social Security for the next 75 years, payroll taxes need to be increased by 3.42%. It's big. So we're talking getting closer to 20%. This is a big deal. Now, they also potentially project that the benefits would need to be reduced by a corresponding amount. So add 3, subtract 3. This is going to be a problem, especially for those who are really dependent on Social Security income. But there's a bunch of other factors that are going to contribute to this potential underfunding over the next 75 years. Here's a big one. It's a demographic change. We have to understand that the ratio of workers to beneficiaries is declining. As baby boomers retire, which are roughly 10,000 a day in this year, fewer workers are paying into the system. So as less people pay into the system, more people are using the system. So there's going to be a natural strain on these trust funds. Then also, with people living longer, it also has a huge impact on retirement income benefits. If we live 30 or 40 years into retirement, let's say you live to 100, you're going to be receiving income from the SSA for up to 30 years or more. It could be 38 to 30 years, depending on what age you choose to do it at. But there's also a lot of economic factors that play into this. And part of that is the inflation that we talked about in our prior segment. When we have cost of living adjustments, that COLA increases that strain because more money is going out the door based on inflation here in America. And there's also other economic factors that we want to consider. Wage growth, productivity, economic conditions that affect payroll tax revenues. All of these things need to be considered when we're thinking about future income for Social Security. And then also variations in birth rates also influence the size of the workforce in the future. So if certain generations are not having kids, it really changes the dynamic of the system that could be huge problems in the future. But everything is not all doom and gloom. Let's talk about some potential solutions that the SSA has really considered over the past couple years. This is not a fun one. Raising the payroll tax rate. It's going to affect employers and employees. Less money will be in everyone's pockets to invest. Here's a sort of popular one. It's about adjusting your benefits. If we modify the current benefit formula, increasing the retirement age to maybe 70 or 75, this means that there could be some testing done to see if this could reduce the outflow of funds. I foresee this potentially happening for like my kids and for that generation because things will need to change into the future. And then here's a big one, the general revenue financing. This is where the government is thinking of using tax dollars to supplement the trust funds. So let's think about the government for a moment. There are over $30 trillion of untaxed 401k plan dollars that the government is potentially considering taxing to help offset the Social Security deficit. So if you have dollars in a pre-tax 401k plan or a pre-tax IRA, you know what the truth is? You don't own all of that money. So let's say if you saved $1 million and you think you're a millionaire because of that. We have to look at the tax brackets. If you're in the 22% tax bracket in retirement, we have to look at the $1 million, subtract out that 22% from a taxation standpoint, and net, that's the dollar amount that you actually have because you have a relationship with the government still. From an idea standpoint, and this is what I mentioned earlier, what we do with our clients is we look at potential Roth IRA conversions. And again, this is not a blanket recommendation for everyone, but work with your financial advisor, your retirement income certified professional to work through these scenarios. But what I love doing is looking at, do we have opportunities, very important opportunities, to move money into a Roth IRA from your pre-tax dollars where you pay the taxes now. But if the government's going to be increasing taxes in the future, do you think it would be a bad idea for you to start looking into this now while tax rates are almost historically at their all-time lows? Because the all-time highs were in the 90% in the 1940s. So this is a really great planning opportunity for you to be strategic to see if you could start to move some of your pre-tax dollars into tax-free money into the future. Pay your tax bill now, have an opportunity to have tax-free money later, and that could also potentially give you more of a tax-free revenue stream from your Social Security benefits. These all go hand in hand with one another. But as an investor, which you are, that's why you're watching this show, you have to ask yourself, do you think the government is going to raise taxes in the future or keep them the same or lower them? If the Social Security Administration is underfunded and Medicare and Medicaid, the government is essentially going to need to find ways to cover these shortfalls. And in my opinion, I think it's going to come from taxation. So be progressive, get in front of this now, and we're here to help you through this process. Stay tuned to the Retire As You Desire show. We're going to wrap up this episode with the next segment that I think is going to blow your mind. It's going to be all about why you should be planning very strategically for your Social Security in retirement. Overall, if you claim your benefits before your full retirement age, everyone's income is affected. It will be reduced. That 8% increase is going to be a benefit for your spouse too, if your spouse outlives you. Welcome back to the Retire As You Desire show. We're talking all about the importance of Social Security today. Now, I don't think, this is my personal opinion, I don't think that the Social Security Administration is going to allow that program to go broke. I don't think our leaders, I don't think our government is going to have that happen. I think that they're going to have to look at higher taxes in the future to help offset these costs. But there's so many factors that go into your Social Security income that it's not an easy solution. Longevity is part of the equation. Baby boomers retiring is part of the equation. But I also want to talk to you guys about how can we get the most out of your benefits? Like, what does this actually look like? Because I truly believe that this is the foundation of your retirement income planning. It's the foundation for your future. And if you get this wrong, you only have a 12-month window to correct this. So let's say today you started your Social Security benefits. You got your first check. Congratulations, you're starting to receive money. It's a beautiful thing. But if you're having second thoughts about this, you have a 12-month window that's going to allow you to stop receiving your benefits. If you get to 12 months in one day, you're locked in, and you're locked in for life. So you have to take this consideration very seriously. This is what we do with our clients, is we make different calculations to help them make better decisions. Retirement is all about making better decisions. But from a benefit standpoint, if you do decide to stop your Social Security income, this is one of the things that I wanted to talk about on today's show, is you have that 12-month window, and if you do stop your benefits, you have to get in touch with the Social Security Administration, stop the benefits, but you also have to pay back. You have to have the money to pay back the money that you received during that window. So you have 12 months, but you have to have the savings or the investments to pay that money back. And if you don't, then I believe your benefits are still going to keep rolling, and we don't get to retract those opportunities. So please understand that going into this scenario. And also, there's some huge strategies to talk about a planning standpoint, from a spousal benefit, the timing of claims, and your coordination of benefits. Like, when should you take your income versus your spouse? These are all the things we help our clients with. Now, if you're married in retirement, you want to understand the spousal benefits, meaning yours, your spouse's. What does that mean? So in prior years, this is great. In prior years, you were able to receive up to 50% of your spouse's primary insurance amount, the PIA, if you claim at the full retirement age. So if you are 67, 62, you have opportunities here. But let's go into the details. You must be at least 62 years old. Your spouse must have filed for their own benefits for you to claim the spousal benefits. And if you claim before your full retirement age, the spousal benefit is reduced. So overall, if you claim your benefits before your full retirement age, everyone's income is affected. It will be reduced. Now, if you delay your benefits to increase your payout, your benefit is going to go up 8% a year that you delay. It's a big, big deal. Now, if you delay yours past the full retirement age, that 8% increase is going to be a benefit for your spouse too, if your spouse outlives you. So that's going to help them have a higher income as well in the future. Now, another thing we need to talk about is who is the higher earner? If the higher earning spouse delays their benefits until 70, the increased worker benefit can result in a higher survivor benefit. And that's going to really affect that lower earner. So if the spouse worked part-time because of kids or family or whatever the reason may be, or health even, this will have a huge impact. So planning for these different scenarios is crucial, because one of the strategies that was really prevalent before 2016 is called file and suspend. Now, I have bad news for you guys. This is really important to know. This strategy is no longer allowed. If you did this before 2016, you are able to start your income, suspend the benefits, and allow the other spouse to claim their spousal benefits while your own benefits continue to grow. The strategy was stopped. It was no longer available. So I think people really took advantage of that scenario, and the Social Security Administration realized that we're losing a lot of money because of this. So thankfully, they put a stop to it for the longevity of the program. And that's what they need to be looking at, to allow you to have income for the remainder of your life, your kids' life, your grandkids' life. It's not an easy task, but changes will be coming potentially soon as well. Now let's talk about a restricted application. This is for people born before January 2nd of 1954. So they're close to 70 now, or over 70 now. You can use the restricted application strategy at your full retirement age. Now what you can do is choose to receive only your spousal benefit while allowing your own retirement benefit to grow until age 70. Remember what we said earlier? You need to start receiving your benefits at age 70, but this was a way to get sort of the most out of a survivor benefit as well. Because when you delay till 70, if you are the main wage earner in the household, and if your spouse outlives you, really important to take into consideration that if this is your only source of income, you may want to delay this until 70, because not only you're going to receive that higher income, but your spouse is going to have the opportunity to have higher income as well if they outlive you. That's part of the game. But from a survivor benefit standpoint, you need to calculate who's going to be receiving a higher benefit, who should start to take their income first, and what does that look like, and what are the benefits and the downfalls of receiving your income. Now here's a fun one. I love doing this with our clients, is coordinating benefits. One of the ideas is sequential claiming. So the lower earning spouse can claim their benefit first, so they start to receive that income. And then the higher earning spouse is going to delay their income until age 70. That delayed credit is going to give them a higher income. And this is really important if there's an age difference as well. Having that dynamic mapped out from an age difference standpoint is going to help you make better decisions from a timing perspective for your retirement income. And here's another great idea. If you're married and you're both receiving your income, and if you are working at a W-2 job for your whole entire career, you're basically used to getting paychecks twice a month. That's probably how it worked. So here's an idea that we help our clients with. If your spouse is going to start receiving their Social Security, I recommend that they do it first of the month. That way they start having income coming in, just like you did during your working years. And then your second income amount, do that on the 15th of the month. So that way, you're not really changing how you live during your working years. You have income on the 1st, income on the 15th. You could separate those out depending on your own scenario for your household. But with our clients, what we do is we want to have income at different times of the month and have that coordinated with your retirement income plans from your investments. So that way, if we can get you more income than what you are making during your working years, that could be a home run in retirement. Now, it doesn't happen with everyone, but it could happen for you. And if you're confused, you don't know where to start working with a financial advisor, especially someone who is a retirement income certified professional or a CFA. Those could be great opportunities for you to work with people who are knowledgeable on retirement income planning. Now, if you need help with this, please reach out to us. The phone number's right here. Our email is right here. Send us questions. We'd love to be a resource for you. Retire as you desire. It's all about having a lifestyle. I love helping people get their retirement dollars in place so that they could potentially and hopefully have a higher income in retirement than their working years. That's part of the retire as you desire lifestyle. Now, if you haven't saved enough or you don't think you have, please reach out to us. It's really simple to put together a retirement income plan to show you how long your money could potentially last, what's the impacts of your Social Security, and we're here for you throughout your retirement journey. So tune in every single Friday night for great information just like this about Social Security, retirement income planning, and how to really squeeze the juice out of your retirement and try and get the most out of it. So tune in every Friday night for a new episode of the Retire As You Desire show.